Euro dollar. So the euro remains under pressure with the market now closing in on a retest of that critical multi-year low from March at 104.62. At this point, any rally should be very well capped ahead of 110, while ultimately only back above the 113 area would compromise the immediate bearish outlook in the euro. Sterling dollar. So cable continues to put in a series of lower tops off that 2015 high, with the market now looking for that next lower top in the 152.65 area ahead of fresh downside below recent lows that we saw down around 150.27 and eventually back towards that 2015 base at 145.66. At this point, only back above the 155.10 area would compromise the immediate bearish outlook for sterling dollar. Dollar yen. So dollar yen, following a brief setback off recent highs, has now rallied back towards the recent highs and is now looking to retest that 78.6 fib retracement off of the 2015 high at 125.85 to August low at 116.12. At this point, the market will need to establish above the 78.6 fib retracement, which comes in around the 123.70 area, to open the door for a full retracement back towards that 125.85 high. But inability to establish a daily close above 123.70 at that 78.6 fib retrace would keep the pressure on the downside, potentially suggesting a lower top and fresh weakness in the sessions ahead. Euro Swiss. So Euro Swiss remains confined to a consolidation despite recent setbacks, and the market ultimately is within a recovery structure off of those record lows that were seen earlier this year. At this point, look for the market to hold above 107.14 in favor of the next upside extension above 110.50 and towards a measured move at 112 further up. Only a close back below 107.14 would compromise this recovery outlook for Euro Swiss. Aussie dollar. So Aussie remains confined to a downtrend, with the market now focused on a retest of that recent multi-year low at just ahead of 69. Any rallies should continue to be very well capped, while only a break back above 73.82 would compromise the immediate bearish outlook. Dollar CAD. So dollar CAD remains highly constructive, with the market now focused on a retest and break of the September 11-year high at 134.57. At this point, any setback should be very well supported into the 130 area, while only back below 128 would compromise the immediate bullish outlook for dollar CAD. Kiwi dollar. So Kiwi clearly looks to have put in a medium-term lower top just ahead of 70 by those recent highs that we saw at 68.93, and the market looks poised for a resumption of declines and fresh lows below those August lows that we saw down around the 62 area. At this point, only back above 69 would compromise the immediate bearish outlook for Kiwi dollar. SPX 500. So the S&P 500 is showing signs of topping out after stalling out ahead of the May record high at 2137, with the latest rally stalling at 2117 ahead of this latest pullback. At this point, look for the rallies to be very well capped now ahead of a resumption of declines back down towards recent lows that were seen just ahead of 2000 and potentially back towards those lows that we saw by 1870 going back to September. At this point, only back above 2117 would compromise this outlook and open the door for a more meaningful bullish resumption in the S&P 500. Gold. So gold remains under intense pressure, with the market now focused on potentially establishing below recent multi-year lows from last week at 1074 and moving down towards psychological barriers at 1000. But daily studies are oversold here, so we could soon see some form of a rebound before the market considers moving lower, or the potential formation of a longer-term base if the market can hold around the 1070 area in favor of a push back towards and eventually above 1192. 1192 is that critical resistance point to look at above, and if the market can establish above that level, it will solidify the prospects for a meaningful base. But again, inability to establish above, to hold above 1074 and a break below would open the door for a fresh acceleration of declines down towards those critical psychological barriers at 1000. That's all for now.